Morning. Bruchim Habayim, and Bruchim Habayim for our viewers on Torah anytime as well. I want to dedicate this year for the Atzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosahim and his family, as well as for Ilui Nishmas Ha'isha HaChashuva, Chana Bas Rebavo Pesach, storage Alei Shalom. Today is the fourth Yortzeit, an Isha Chashuva, involved in so many chesed activities, and for the merit of her son that continues in her path and is involved. I'm aware of a lot of things that my dear friend Frank Storch from Baltimore is involved with, and I'm well aware that I'm not aware of maybe more than 2% of the stuff that he is involved. So that schus of the entire beautiful family will continue elevating in Mitzvah Hashem, the neshama of Chana Bat Rebavo Pesach, higher and higher in the upper worlds in Mitzvah Hashem. We're going to speak in Mitzvah Hashem about Parshas Lech Lecha, Seminyana de Yoima. We'll see how much time we have, but we start with a pasuk from Parshas Ekev. Eretz asher Hashem Elokecha doiresh oisa tamid. Kodesh Baruch Hu's eyes are always on this land. Einei Hashem Elokecha ba. Kodesh Baruch Hu is watching. Mireishis Hashana ve'ad achris Hashana. Doesn't say that? Oh, so I added a letter. Let's do it again. Mireishis Hashana, from the beginning of the year, ad achris. To be consistent, you have to say ad achris Hashana, but it doesn't say that. It says Mireishis Hashana for the beginning of the year, ad achris Shana. What happened to the hay? Why can't you be consistent? It really should have a hay there. Said the Satmar Rebbe many times. As we approach Rosh Hashanah, we say to ourselves, this will be the year. Hashana. Mireishis Hashana. You start the new year and you say, this will be the year that I will daven, the year that I will grow, the year that I will steig, and I will learn, and I will give me schazek and be tochon and emunah. The year! You come to the person at the end of the year, no, another year. Achris Shana. It was not the year. Hashana with Hey Yediyah, another year. That's why in Usaf Sfad, Musaf, Shabbos, what do you say? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll redeem you. And Ga'alti Eschem. You know when? Achris Kereshis. And Ga'alti Eschem Achris Kereshis. When the end of the year will match that of the beginning of the year, well, you'll have the same excitement, the same enthusiasm as you had in the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, then it says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Ga'alti Eschem, I'll redeem you. Which means we have to preserve. We're coming off now of the highs of the Yamim Toivim, the different Kabbalos Toivis that we accepted on ourselves, Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Aseres Yemei Tshuva. We have to make sure that it sticks with us the entire year. And Ga'alti Esrem, when? Achis, when the end of the year, the end. Achis will be Kereshis, will be just like the beginning of the year. When you said, it's going to be the year, make sure that this in fact is the year. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll make it the year of Geula in Mitzvah Hashem. But now we're back to Parshas Lech Lecha. The Pasha said we're not going to go necessarily according to the order of events in the Pasha, but the entire land that you see, I'm going to give it to you. Lecha etnena ulezaracha ad oilam. With what merit did Avraham Avinu receive Eretz Yisrael? How big is Avodah Zarah? How many tractates are in Maseches Avodah Zarah? Anyone? Daf Yomi? Maseches Avodah Zarah, how many chapters does it have? Mishnah Yomi, Daf Yomi, Amud Yomi, something Yomi?
40.
Our Maseches Avodah Zarah, how many chapters does it have? Chapters! 5. Last time I checked, 5 chapters. How many chapters does the Masechet Avodah Zarah of Avraham Avinu have? 400. The Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, Daf Yud Dalet Amud Beis, his tractate was a little longer, 80 times longer than ours. We have 5 chapters. He, for whatever reason, had 400. There's a sefer called Tshuvos Upsakim Me'et Chachmei Ashkenaz V'Tzalfas. We're talking about very early, Siman Kuf Pei Aleph, and they bring. For the merit that Avraham Avinu left 400 types of Avodah Zarah, he received Eretz Yisrael, and the size of Eretz Yisrael is 400 parsa by 400 parsa, as we learn in Megillah Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Tosis brings by Metzia Daf Kaf Ches Amud Aleph, and that it is why he acquired Maras HaMachpelah with 400 shekel kesef. What's the connection of Avodah Zarah and Eretz Yisrael? Says the Rokeach is one of the Rishonim. 400 shekel has the same numerical value. Same Gimatria as 400 prakim. 400 stays the same. Shekel and prakim is the same. It's Gimatria 1150. So then he instituted, when he left out 400 types of Avodah Zarah, he instituted 400 chapters of Avodah Zarah corresponding to Eretz Yisrael, which was full of idols, 400 different types of idols. Which means, because he left 400 types of idols, he received Eretz Yisrael, whose size is 400 pasa by 400 pasa. Avraham Avinu finally, after so many years, hears that he will, yes?
So if he had more idols, would have paid more?
No, Eretz Yisrael will be bigger. Avraham Avinu finally finds out he's going to have a son. After how many years that he's married? When did he get married? How old was he? You were invited to the wedding?
No, 99.
99 is when he hears he's finally going to have a son.
No, 90 he wanted to got married.
He got married at 25. That means he's married for 74, almost 75 years, and now finally, Baruch Hashem is going to have a son. What would you expect his first reaction to be? Run to your wife, who's married to you for 74 years, who's 90 years old, and says, Rebbetzin, we get a mazel tov. Mitzvah Hashem, bekoro, b'sha'at tova, you're going to have a son. How come he didn't run to tell her? Isn't it strange?
She heard it.
He hears first. The first thing should be running to Sarah, Rebbetzin, b'sha'at tova. So some say, could be, that this was right after the bris milah and he's just too weak. Some say, the Ramban says, Avraham Avinu said to himself, yes, I'm a prophet, but she is greater in prophecy than me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself said it. Anything Sarah says, listen to her because she is greater than you Nevios. So if I heard it, of course she's going to hear it. I don't know if today, or tomorrow, for she's going to hear it, and there's no reason for me to go and tell her. Some say, from the Pashtut of Psukim, it seems Avraham Avinu didn't believe 100%. 92%, 95%. They tell an old lady, by the way, you're going to have a kid. If it doesn't happen, she's going to be so disappointed. But maybe in a different way. Reb Nosson Adler, who's the Rebbe of Chassam Sofer, says the following. Shabbos Kuf Chaf Zayin, Shavuos Lamed Hey, we learn, Gedoyla hachnasas orchim, more so, Yoser me'akbalas pnei Shechinam. You're talking to the Rebbeinu Shel Olam, but there's a guest knocking on the door. It's greater to go and open the door and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sorry. Where do we learn it from? Avraham Avinu. 3 Arabs are coming. He thinks he's idol worshippers. And yet, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm so sorry, I have Arabs to catch. You learn from here, Gedoyla achnasas orchim, but everybody asks, now I understand that I learned it from Avraham Avinu, but how did Avraham Avinu know? Who taught him that? Who told him it's more important to stop speaking to the Ribbon Shel Olam? Who gave him permission? Reb Nosson Adler says the following. Avraham Avinu was so holy. Not just his neshama, his body became sanctified and it matched his neshama. The pasuk says, Vayar ve'ineh shloisha anashim. He saw 3 men. And then again it says, Vayar atzli klosam. And he saw and he ran. Why does it have to double up? And he saw and he saw. You already told me that he saw. Says Ibn Nosson Adler, he saw the second time something else. He was all kedusha. His body intuitively did always the right thing. So when he saw, I'm speaking to Ribbon Shel Olam, and yet, look, my legs are starting to move towards the door, towards the 3 Arabs. I guess right now there's something more important than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because he was so holy. That's why he taught himself, there's something more important than speaking to Ribbon Shel Olam. It's called Achnasas Orchim. In the same manner, could be that after he heard that he's going to have a kid, he was expecting to see his lips starting to move, his legs starting to run towards Sarah, and it didn't happen. He realized, okay, I got to stay put. Avraham Avinu was so in tune with his body was so in tune with his neshama, they become one. So when you're not doing something, it's just like you are doing something, it tells you, and when you're on a level of Avraham Avinu, what's the right thing to do and what is not. Now, Rabbi Isai, I'm giving you dessert for 2 weeks straight, 0 calories, but so sweet. Gewaldig. Avraham Avinu is going to fight. He's going to fight with? Who is he taking as his soldier? Even though the Torah says soldiers, 318, Lemaisa Gemore Nedorim Lamed Beis says it was really only one. 318 Gematria? Eliezer. Great. What's the size of Avraham Avinu? Og Melech HaBashan is a giant. Avraham Avinu, Also a big guy. Moshe, 10 amos. What's the size of Avraham Avinu? You're sending us to Masechet Sofrim, Perek Chavtes. Over there it says, Masechet Sofrim is one of the Masechtot Ktanos in Shas. And over there is a Girsa of 70, but the main Girsa is his height corresponded to 74 people. A giant of all giants, and on him, Chazal Darshan, the Pasuk, Ha'adam Ha'godol Ba'anakim, the greatest giant. Who is that? That is Avraham Avinu, whose height corresponded to 74 people. A giant. Where'd you get this number from? How is it possible? What does that mean? Says Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Zatzal, Sanhedrin Daf Tzadei Amud Beis, it says that the camp of the soldiers, the army, the 4 kings that they were fighting, was 400 parsa. Now Eliezer has another name. Who's Eliezer, really? Masechet Sofrim over there says, he is Og, the brother of Sichon. Great. Og is the one who comes to fight with him. Nedarim Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. What's the size of Og? Avram corresponds to 74 people in Og. How big is his bed?
One tooth that fell.
How big is the bed of Og Melech HaBashan? Parshas Dvarim, the Torah says. What's the size of the bed of Avram? It's a pasuk in the Torah. 9 amos. Why do you need to be 9 amos a bed? A normal kid, how tall is he? When he's born. The Gemara, the Medrash Bereishis Rabbah Yud Beis Vav says, an amma and a half. So you only need a bed which is an amma and a half long. If you have a 9 amma long bed, that means you're how many times greater than a regular guy? 6. Right? 6 times 1/2. 9. Og is like 6 people. Avraham Avinu is like 74 people. Together, they are 80 people. A regular person, how much can he walk over the course of a regular day? Adam Benoini, how much does he walk? Psachim Daf Tzadid Al Amud Aleph, 10 parsa a day. This war started, Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, Perek Chavtes, at the beginning of the night. And it lasted ad Chatzi Alayla. Rashi says clearly. So how many hours did they fight? A night is 12 hours. They only fought for half a night. How many hours is that? 6 hours. A regular person walks 10 parsa a day. So in a half a day in 6 hours, 5 parsa. Now you don't have one person here. You have as if 80 people. 80 times 5, 400 parsa. Pashut and Avraham Avinu had the size corresponding to 74 people. That is why Rashi over there says, "Vayechalek aleim alayla." What does that mean? Kederech haroitrim, like those who pursue ze lekan v'ze lekan. This one goes this way, and this one goes chasing them in the other direction. Og, who's Eliezer, he went to the east and pursued. He's like 6 people, 6 times 5 parsa a day, a half a day per person. That means 30, so he pursued them 30 parsa. And Avram, who's corresponding to the size of 74 people times 5, 74 times 7, 370 parsa, he went to the left, to the west, and therefore you have 370 plus 30, 400 parsa, perfect. You need dessert now? You don't need dessert.
Avraham Avinu was the height of 74 people.
Yeah.
So Emmanuel also must have been a similar height.
Why? Where'd you get that from?
Because of why?
You know the size of Og's wife?
No, but why?
Moshe Rabbeinu's wife? We know about them that they were giants. Who says that their wives?
She would never even been able to see his face if his face was 74.
Baruch Hashem for the invention of ladders. Avraham Avinu gave Meiser. So let's ask a question about Meiser. It's a person who found a lost item. You don't always have to give back a lost item. Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat, Reish Nun Tet Seif Hey says there are cases where you can actually keep it. But Lifni Mishur Hasadin, you should return it. For example, a person found a lost item in a city where the majority of residents are not Jewish. You don't have to keep it. You don't have to give it back. You can keep it yourself. Unless the person who lost it is a poor person and he gives you a siman, the Jew comes and gives you a siman, and he is poor, and you are rich, you don't need it. Lifnei mishur hasdin, to give him back. But if it's the reverse, you keep it to yourself, even if a yid comes and gives you simanim. Or save Zain over there. You save an item from Zuto Shel Yam. A storm comes and sweeps it away. It's yours. Lifnei Mishua Sadin, you should give it. But Lemaisa, it's yours. So when you find an item like this, which really is yours, but you're giving it back only Lifnei Mishua Sadin, you have to give Maisa? $50,000 you just got. Do you have to give Maisa from it? It's really yours, but Lemaisa, I'm giving it. I'm giving it back to the person who lost it. You have to give Maisa. That's a new question. I'm talking about the person who found the $50,000, and he says, technically speaking, it's mine. Shulchan Aruch said it's mine. But Shulchan Aruch also said, Lifnei Mishua Sadin, I should give it back. So here, take it back. But just before that 5 seconds that I'm giving it back to you, do I have to give Maisa from that 50,000?
If he holds on to it, yeah.
He is going to give it back. He is going to give back Lifnei Mishua Sadin. But since he just acquired, according to Shulchan Aruch, it's yours, acquired new money. Should he have to give or not? What's that? So when you do a business, you sold something, business deal, and you just made $1 million, and you're putting it on the side, and you're not benefiting from it for the next 10 years, so you don't have to give Maisa?
When we give Masa, we give the 10%. We don't give the 10% of 10%. That's end of the sof. This is.
What do you mean 10% of the 10%? When you get new money coming into your possession, from a gift, from a lost item, from earnings, whatever it is, you give a certain percentage. And 10%, by the way, Chazal called 10% Mida Beinonis. We're talking about 20% Mida Toiva.
It was never yours.
But the Shulchan Aruch said it is yours. Lifnei Mishua Sadin, you should give it back. But technically speaking, it's yours. Min Hadin, it's yours. That's the question.
He's being machmir on himself to give them the money.
Shulchan Aruch told him, Lifnei Mishua Sadin, you should give it back. But it really is his.
That's meaning he's machmir to give it back.
Giving
So then he should tell the guy he has now $45,000.
So he should give Maisa from it.
But he doesn't have to. I would say that he doesn't have to give it back. It sounds like, right?
Technically speaking, it's his, yet a strong recommendation from Vada Kashrus called Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Choshen Mishpat. It's not Orach Chaim. Choshen Mishpat Steven Reish Nun Tet Seif. Hey, give it back. Lifnei Mishua Sadin. In other words, if he doesn't give it back, we can't protest. But it's the right thing to do.
So then it sounds like you shouldn't give machmir.
No Maisa.
No. When he gives it, isn't that the masa? It's like saying I'm giving. Yours a masa.
Maisa is a certain portion, 10%, 20% of the item. You're giving the whole thing. That's not Maisa.
I can give 100% if I want. No.
That's not called Maisa. No, you can't. No. Ksubus Daf Nun. Be'usha Tiknu Amevazbez Al Yevazbez. Yoisem Michoy Mishin are allowed to give more than 20%. Unless you're a billionaire, and that's not counted as 20% of your money.
How can you give
The
Maisa?
psak of the Shulchan Aruch is to give it. So therefore,
The Psak of Shulchan Aruch that it's yours. But Lifnei Mishua Sadin, it's right to give, but you don't have to.
How can you give Maisa from it?
If it's mine, I have to give Maisa from it.
But if he gives it away, how can he give Maisa from it?
Because it was mine. I'm being a nice guy, I'm giving you a gift.
I'm saying how? I'm asking-
Because it's a gift.
I'm asking Hashem, how does he? If I give $100 to somebody. How do I give Maisa from that $100?
2 seconds before I give it back to him, I say, wait a second, I'd like to give it to you, but it's mine, and I have to give Maisa. I just got new money in my possession. I have to give Maisa. Wait 2 seconds, you give it, and then you give it to him. Minus 10%. Minus 10%, 20%, whatever you give Maisa. If you have to give.
Why does he have to get? Why is the person who
I give you the meiser 10%, give you 5,000. The next day as a gift, I give you the 45,000. So he has given everything without giving.
The question is, does he have to or not?
Say you run a business, right? You pay VAT, right? And when you earn VAT, you have to give it out. Before you give VAT, you have to pay Meiser on that before you pay VAT.
Now we're going into Shalos of Meiser. Emir Hashem, maybe Parshas Re'eh will discuss that. These are very important halachos. The Meiser you don't need to. VAT is not part of your earnings. It goes to the government. You have to take from your earnings, not from what the government earned.
Yeah, but it's yours. It was yours for a certain amount of time.
It was never yours because when you received it, built in, is 70% is going back to the government. I'm holding money that belongs to the government. It's never mine. So you don't have to give Meiser from it. But in my question, Rabbi Yisai, Parshas Lech Lecha. A little hint. Asks Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Avraham Avinu said, Ve'im michut, ve'atzroch na'al. I don't even want a shoelace from you. I don't want anything. So why does it say that he gave him Maaser Mikol, he gave him Meiser, but he didn't get anything? How can you give Meiser from that which you never received? Says Reb Chaim, Lemaise Avraham Avinu acquired it because of kibush milchama. He conquered, he won, it's his. But I don't want it. But it's his. It's me'ikar adin is his. It's mamish our shayla. So he says, based on this, we can answer our question. He says, a person who finds a lost item, that me'ikar adin it's his, but he decides to do what Shulchan Aruch suggests, lifnim mishuas din to give it back. Since he acquired it, he has to walk in the path of Avraham Avinu, and you see from here, you have to give meiser. Avraham Avinu never received anything. I don't want anything, not even a shoelace. And yet he gave meiser. Why? Because me'ikar adin it's yours. Because you conquered. So just like me'ikar adin, when you find that lost item, it's yours, you have to give meiser like Avraham Avinu.
So now if he gives back the minus the meiser, does he have to add from his own?
Ma pitom, why? It doesn't belong to the person. It doesn't belong to the person. I'm being a nice guy.
What if the guy tells you when you give it back, he's like, oh, I gave meiser out of that money.
Say thank you that we get 90% of the money. I could have kept the entire thing to myself. Be happy with 90%. Until now you thought you lost the whole thing. Now you get 90% back.
Why does Shulchan Aruch say if you give back 90%? I would think that he would say that.
Shulchan Aruch doesn't discuss meiser there. He discusses hilchos aveda and reish nun tes. Are you required to give or you're not required to give?
Sounds like you'd have to give the whole thing, though.
The whole thing, of course. The whole thing that you found. But 90% of it, because 10% it doesn't belong to the person who lost it. Now we'll go, first, wait a second, we'll touch it in a second. First of all, Rabbi Yosef doesn't agree with his son-in-law. Reb Chaim says, yes, you have to give. Rabbi Yosef says, no, you don't have to give. Why? Because the Ramban says that Lemaise Avraham Avinu intended initially not to acquire anything. I'm going to war, I just want to release my nephew Loit, that's why I'm going to war. I don't want anything, don't want any of the items. Many, he never acquired it. He never acquired it, he never has to give meiser. He disagrees. So with this, we go to the second part of the shayla that somebody said. What about the recipient? You lost $50,000. Never seeing that money again. I don't know where you lost it. You gave up ownership. You finished. I found it, and I know it's yours. So I come to you and said, didn't you lose 50,000? I said, yeah. Here, it's back. Whoa, shekoyach! Do I have to give meiser from that new money that now came into my possession that until 5 minutes ago was my old money? Say machlokes Reb Chaim and Rabbi Yosef. My father-in-law and son-in-law. Reb Chaim says, yes, it's new money. New money came into your possession. You were misyash. You gave up ownership. It's not yours. So now you got a gift. You got a gift of 50,000. Give money, meiser. Rabbi Yosef says, no, it's your money. You're just getting it back. You don't have to give meiser. So the same. They're consistent in both ends, recipient and giver of this money.
Am I right in thinking that sometimes, in such cases, if you found something, Rabbi Chaim would hold that you should destroy it, rather than...
Destroy it means bal tashchis.
No, but what happens, for example, in this law, you find a smartphone, one of its iPhones with,
That has nothing to do with it.
filter on it. Would he hold to destroy it?
First of all, to know the answer to that, he has to be here, and we have to ask him what he would hold. But there's an easier way. You can give it to one of those agencies that kasher those phones. Shouldn't be a problem. But you're reminding me that the grandson of Shteiman Zatzal said, he always used to walk with him, the grandson of the Gabbai used to walk with him, he says, Reb Shteiman always used to find money in the streets when they're walking together. Always. He said, I never found. Reb Shteiman always used to find money. Asked him why? He says, Reb Shteiman was applying what Igeres HaRamban says. How is one supposed to walk? With his head down. His head down, you're going to find a lot of money. He says, I look forward to it. I want to see where I'm going, where I'm headed. Reb Shteiman always finds another coin, is another bill, is another coin. Why? Because he's looking down. Yeah, Roi Sholemata, Igeres HaRamban.
But to get out of this, when he gives the money, if he says, okay, 10%, 20% is the master, and the other one, the rest is a gift. Can you satisfy both opinions of this?
If it's a gift, and the guy lost ownership, so for sure he has to give meiser, according to Reb Chaim. Reb Yosef says it's not a gift. You're going to call it a gift. Reb Yosef says it's not a gift. It's my money.
I think according to Reb Chaim, I'm pretty sure that he would have to give the guy the whole money back. And he can give meiser if he wants from his money.
So in other words, I have to lose money when I'm doing a mitzvah called Hashavas Aveda?
But I have to take from the guy, you have to lose money?
It's not the money of the guy who lost it doesn't have any money. We're talking about money that you are able to keep, not when you must give back when there's simanim and you lost it in a certain place. If it's money that technically speaking is yours, technically speaking, it's not his anymore. So I acquired new money, I have to give meiser. When I give it back to him, he has to give meiser. So lemaise, how much does he end up with? Only 80%. I'm giving 10%. When he receives it, he has to give another 10%. But even if tzaddik, and I give 20%, and if he's a tzaddik and he gives 20%, how much does he have? Not too much. More than 60.
I think he'll feel
More than 60, right? 20% off 100 is 80. Another 20% off 80 is how much? Is only 16. So the Lemaisa he's left with 64.
But Stama Amaras, who gets that, he's going to feel like he's been, that you're not returning my full lost object.
So we'll call Reb Chaim to explain to him why he's wrong. If he's giving a Maisa 20% already, he's a tzaddik. How much Lemaisa did Avraham Avinu give? We said before, Chazal called 10% Mida Beinonis. Mida Toiva, Bichlal, when Avraham Avinu gave Maisa. Did he give 10% or 20%? Avraham Avinu fulfilled the entire Torah before it was given? Even the Rabbanons. Yom HaKafches Amud Beis, Kiddushin Pei Beis Amud Aleph, Avraham Avinu fulfilled the entire Torah before it was given. Did he give 10% or 20%? Pashut, the answer is 20%. What does it say there in Torah? The pasuk we just read before. Vayiten lo maaser mikol. Says the megale amukois. He reveals to us secrets. Mikol, mem, kaf, lamed, gimatria. Mem is 40, kaf is 20, lamed is 30. 40 and 20 and 30? 90. What happens when you have 100 and you give Meiser 10%? You're left with 90. You give Meiser. But the pasuk says he gave Meiser mikol, from the mikol. In other words, he took another Meiser from the 90. Which means Avraham Avinu did what the Torah says, aser te aser, 2 isurim, 10% and another 10%. Because Avraham Avinu fulfilled the entire Torah, including the Rabbanons, even before they were given.
That's less than 10.
What's that?
That's a little less than 10.
Yeah, 10% and 10%. One should not give 20%. One should give 10% and another 10%. Aser te aser. And the Gaon Vilna says, and that comes the promise of Chazal. Aser bishvil shetis asher. Give Meiser and you will become rich. We mentioned before shoelace.
How does Rabbi Yashiv say that Avraham Avinu gave Meiser?
Oh, so I started but I didn't finish. So he says, the Ramban says he really never acquired anything. So why are you giving Meiser? Not because of a Meiser. Because Shem came out and greeted him with lechem and yain and gave him blessings. You know what? I got to give him something. Akarasa toiv. And therefore he gave him something in return, but not betoiras Meiser. Betoiras, I'm a nice guy and you're a nice guy. Let me reciprocate. You give such a nice things. Lechem and yain and a bracha. I like a bracha from you. A Kohen Gadol. So let me give you back in return. He gave him something as if Meiser. In other words, he gave him from what he has. He gives something.
Meiser from what?
No, he gave him Meiser from whatever he wanted. He gave him Meiser. He gave him a certain amount. You're calling it Meiser just means he gave from him to him. He gave from what he owned to him, but not his Meiser.
Not from the spoil.
Right. So we mentioned a shoelace. Ilchos Tefillah. Every single morning, Bikos HaShachar. Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. She'asa li kol tzorki. What is that bracha referring to? Shoes. Thank you for my shoes. Just before that, Baruch Ata Hashem Malbish Arumim. What is that bracha referring to? Clothes. So why clothes you're talking about Lashon Rabim? Malbish Arumim, not Malbish Arum. Arumim. Everybody. She'asa li kol tzorki. Thank you for my shoes. What about your shoes? What's the difference here? Why? What's the chiluk? Bgadim, clothes, Rabim. Shoes, Shon Yachid.
It needed in the Rosh Hashanah, after the person passes away, you can pass them clothes, but not shoes.
You're thinking like Reb Chaim Kanievsky. He brings the Sefer Hasidim in Siman Taf Nun Daled, who says, if a person passed away, can you take his clothes and wear them? Yeah. Sefer Hasidim says, but don't take his shoes. So Mele shoes are only fitting for one person. She'asali kol tzorki. Clothes can be used by many people. So you say, Lashon Rabim, 1 out of 4 answers.
So should the shoes be, the wife is there, the wife should throw away all the clothes that he has?
She can lock it up if he wants to keep it as sentimental value. But yeah, according to Sefer Hasidim, there's nothing to do with them.
They say if it hasn't been worn in 30 days.
We're not going to go into the deep halacha. This is from Sefer, I know, this is from Sefer Hasidim. There are some extenuating circumstances. If you give it to an ani, he doesn't know about it. There's different things you can do with it potentially. Abu Draham says, this bracha she'asa li kol tzorki is based on a pasuk. The pasuk instructs you, the individual, v'zacharta. You should remember it, Hashem Elokecha, ki hu anoten lecha koyach la'asos chayil. So this pasuk is formulated in the singular, and that's why the bracha is formulated in the singular. That's the Abu Dham. Reb Steinman says, a garment doesn't have to be perfectly your size. It can be a little bigger. So Mimele, it can serve many people, more than one. But shoes, if it's not your size, you're not walking with them. It's very uncomfortable. So Mimele shoes can only be worn by you. So you say, She'asali kol tzolki is referring to me only.
Who said that?
Reb Steinman, Ayeles HaShachar at the end of Parshas Kisavoy. But clothes can be worn by many people. Mimele, malbish agumim. But the best answer, I think, is again Reb Chaim Kanievsky with another taich, and he says, Chas v'sholom, that we should say in the plural, she'asa lanu kol tzolkeinu. You know what would happen if we did? That would be the last time you will ever give tzedakah. You just declared to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we all have what we need. She'asa lanu kol tzolkeinu. We have everything we need. That's the literal meaning of the word. She'asa lanu kol tzolkeinu. So when the ani comes knocking and says, I'm not giving to you. I just said this morning, you have what you need. She'asa lanu kol tzolkeinu. So chas v'sholom. So we'll stick with she'asa li kol tzolkeinu. When the ani comes and says, I don't know about you. I have what I need, but I'm guessing if you want, you probably need, here, take tzedakah, otherwise we will never give tzedakah again. Bris Milah.
Is that why women love to buy shoes? Because they never have enough of things.
Bris Milah. On what day is it performed? What if you performed it on the 7th day? 7th day. Does it work?
No.
Mamash towards the evening.
No.
Doesn't work. 6th day?
No.
5th for sure you don't like.
No.
Can it be a bris milah that's performed on the 4th day? Lechatchila. You know what? Let's make it harder. Can it be a bris milah that's performed on the 1st day? A baby is born? Oh, bris milah. Lechatchila.
First day of what?
The baby is born. No, come, let's do a bris milah.
Times Hashmad or something like this.
Times Hashmad? So you're going to keep Shabbos on Monday and times Hashmad?
It's not a mitzvah.
You're going to light Hanukkah candles in Sukkot? It's not the time.
It's not a mitzvah. It's not
I
a
mean, if
A
one,
mitzvah, mitzvah, mitzvah.
if one knows you cannot do on the
So
eighth
must
day,
do.
If you can't do it on the 8th day, so the mitzvah never came on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, it's still not here. And once the mitzvah comes, it's be'oines, Rachmana Patre, Kodesh Baruch Hu is not going to have any claims. And yet, when do you do the bris milah? Even on the day that the baby is born. Eved. What type of Eved? Says the Rambam, Hilchos Milah, Perek Aleph Halacha Gimel. Both of Eved that was born in your possession, to your Eved, to your Shifcha, or an Eved that you acquired, they're both required to be circumcised. The difference is, if it's an Eved that you acquire from the outside, you wait until 8 days. But if it's an Eved, it's called Miknas Kesef, that you acquire on the day that you acquire him. So if he's a day-old baby, or 4th day, or 5th day-old baby, on the day that you acquire him, you do a bris milah. And the Rambam, even there in Halacha, even brings a way that even a miknas bayis, in other words, he is yours, because he was born to your Eved or your Shifcha, there's also even a way that you will do a circumcision even before the 8th day.
Convert, if the baby's converted before 8 days old, would be...
No, only an Eved. There's a Medrash Pliya that the Mesek Eliezer brings. Listen to a strange language. Etzel HaTzadikim, Hakol min HaGezel. Ve'en ochlim, ela min HaMevushal. Ve'oimrim, kedar la'oimer. Again. Etzel HaTzadikim, Hakol min HaGezel. Everything you find by the Tzadikim is Gezel. And they only eat Mevushal, cooked items. And they keep saying, Ktal Omer, Ktal Omer, Ktal Omer, Ktal Omer. Who are these tzaddikim? What does that mean? Says the Sefer Damesek Eliezer, very simple. By the tzaddikim, everything is min hagezel, meaning they always say, Gezel gam zu letoiva. And therefore it's not a wonder that they only eat cooked items, because what is mevushal? Mistapek bema sheyeshlo, Rashi Teivos. And therefore they keep saying, Kedar la'omer, Kol ma de'avid rachmana letav avid, Rashi Teivos. There's all kinds of midrashim like this. Midrash Pliya.
This week's parsha,
Yeah, this week's parsha. Kedar la'omer, that's why it's here. There are all kinds of midrashim like this. Midrash Pliya. Reb Chaim Kanievsky says that some of these midrashim don't really have a source, and they were invented by darshanim who needed something to speak about on Shabbos. But this is brought by the Damesek Eliezer, and he gives a taich what it means. I don't know, but Lemais is definitely true. We know this type of tzaddikim. Gamzu l'toiva, everything. Mistapik b'ma sheyesh lo, and everything says about every single thing that moves. Kol ma de'avid rachmana letav abid.
Now, please say Darshanim invented Midrashim because, like, if Rashi Tirkol, you're making all things now.
Because it's not real Midrashim that are brought in the regular early sources that we're familiar with. Medrash Rabbah, Yalkut Shimoni, Tanchuma, the classic Midrashim. There's some books that bring Medrash Pliya, that we don't have any source for it, and it sounds kind of strange. Do you know tzaddikim that say K'dar La'omer? I never met one. I know that ones that conduct themselves this way, but I don't know. So the pasuk discusses Bris Mila. Unimaltem es besar or laschem, vaya leos ben you uveneichem. This will be a covenant between me and yours. Men, Bris Mila. What about girls? Any bris for girls? It's not right. It's not fair. You said yes?
No.
No. Listen to a Chiddush. From the land of Chidushim. From whom? Toisves. Toisves Hashalem on the Torah says the following. Ve'aya le'ois bris. This will be a sign, a covenant between me and you, that I am the master and you are my slaves. Ani Adon ve'atem avadai. And you do this bris in a makom tsanua, which is not seen. Why? Why not cut off a finger or part of a finger? In order for the nations of the world not to point to the Jews and say, you guys are missing a part. Look, Baalei Mumin, you have blemishes. No. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed us to do it in a makom tsanua. And once HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded this for the men and not for the women, we understand that it's in the place that men are different than women. That wasn't such a big chiddush. Now comes the chiddush. Vedam nidus, in the blood that women see, that women keep and they do according to halacha, hu lahem dam habris. That is their covenant. So it comes that we both have a bris and we both have it in a makom tsanua. I think based on that, we can understand the pasuk that we all say in Bris Milah. Pasuk from Yechezkel, we say, Va'evor alayich, va'erech mitboseses bedamayich. Why not bedamech? Singular. Bedamayich is plural. And not only that, you double up. Va'omer lach, bedamayich chayi, va'omer lach, bedamayich chayi. You already said it. Why say it twice? Two different covenants. The covenant with men, the covenant with women. That's why it's bedamayich, not bedamech. Plural, because we both have bris milah. Men have their bris and women have their bris.
All women have that.
Yeah.
No, not only Jews.
Yeah, and guess what? Many people all over the world, Christians and others, also have a bris. Is that a bris? They do it because they feel like it. It doesn't turn into a mitzvah. Muslims don't do a bris milah. They do a bris. It's not because the Kodesh Baruch Hu commanded them and they don't do priya. They don't do it the way we do it. And women who are not Jewish also have it, but do they keep the halachos that we keep? When you do it according to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that is a brit, that is a covenant between me and you.
With a man, Brit Milah is once. With a woman for many years.
Good. And therefore? Bedamayich, a lot of blood.
There's no action.
There is. To keep the days to count, to do what the halacha dictates that you should do, referring to that. Of course there is. Shulchan Aruch, Yoredea, many simanim that detail exactly the many halachos that are relevant.
When you say B'damai Chayim, we talk about this kid that we're doing.
Right? But why does the pasuk double up?
But who are those? I mean, some people don't even have boys. What do they? So their girls don't have the covenant. Who does that girl?
There is a concept called lo plug. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking to his nation through the mouth of his prophet. And he says, we have a covenant. You and me. Some people are not going to have kids. Some people are not even going to be married. Some people will die young. But Lemaise, the continuation of the nation is built on that there are boys and girls. And I make a covenant, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the boys and with the girls. This type of covenant with the boys, this one with the girls. Bedamayich chayi. And based on that, maybe, Shir Shel Yom of Monday. Perek Mem Ches. Pasuk Yud. Diminu Elokim chasdecha bekerev Heichalecha. Don't say diminu. Dameinu, our blood, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Dameinu Elokim, the blood that you commanded us, the blood of Bris Milah, the blood of women, that is going to bring us, Bekerev Heichalecha, that is what's going to bring us to your sanctuary up there. Where did I get it from? Balaturim. Balaturim says, Mi ya'ale lanu hashamayim, Rashi Tevos, Mi ya'ale lanu hashamayim, Mila, because by the schus of Bris Mila, you get to go to the Heichal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So again, we have the same remez of Damenu, the blood, when you keep it right, when you do everything according to halacha, that gives you permission to go upstairs to the Heichal of Hashem. I gave you before dessert for 2 weeks. This one is for 2.5 weeks. You're good for the next month and change. Tell your wives, no need for any dessert for tonight or for the following Shabbosim. Ostov Tzerebe. Vayetzav alav Paro anashim. Paro commands that some people will accompany Avraham Avinu. Vayeshalchu oso ve'esishto ve'es kol asher lo. How many steps did Paro take here with Avraham Avinu? 4 steps. Soita, Memvav. The Gemara says Memvav Amud Beis. Bishvil arba psiyos. For the 4 steps that Paro took, accompanying Avraham Avinu, what did he get for that? He was zoiche that Avraham Avinu's descendants were enslaved by him for 400 years. 4 steps entitle you to 400 years. 4 corresponds to 4, not to 400. Why does he get 400 years of ours? Because he took 4 steps. I'm sure you're always bothered by this. So let's solve this riddle. Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Amud Aleph Chazal say, B'mida she'ada moidedin lo. In the same measure that one measures, he is measured unto him. What does that mean? Rashi explains. If he gives tzedakah to the ani, meloch ofnav, here, take Mr. Ani, and he gives it to him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu uses his own hands, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has mistama big hands, and he gives back to him, measure for measure. Meaning, when you get your reward, you get it according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's measures. So Paro took 4 steps. He should get 4 steps of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How much is a step of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Let's see. Eruvin Mem Beis Amud Aleph, we learn that a human step is 1 amma. Great. So if a human step is 4 amma, Paro should be getting 4 amos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How much is an amma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? In Yeshaya, Perek Mem, Pasuk Yud Beis, the Pasuk says, Veshamayim bazeret tiken. Literally, measured the heavens with his span. Zeret is not the pinky. Zeret is a measurement. There's a kilometer, there's a mile, there's also zeret. Zeret is from here to here, or from here to here. It's a half an amma. According to most mefarshim, it's a half an amma. Great. So some explain, when it says here that HaKadosh Baruch Hu fashioned the Shamayim with his half an amma, with his zeret, that is referring to the depth, the width of the heavens. Yerushalmi Brachos Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph, we learn that the depth of the heavens will take you to walk 50 years. If 50 years is a zeret, a half an amma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so how much is an amma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? 100 years. Oh, but Paro has to get 4 amos. 4 amos type times 100, 400 years. So he walks 4 steps and he gets in return 400 years. Pashut, no?
It contradicts the Rashi then, doesn't it?
Which Rashi?
The Rashi that says that we were not enslaved 400 years in Egypt, only for 210 years.
Doesn't contradict it.
400
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה bidvoroi. Rashi makes a calculation. The 400 corresponds to the time that Yitzchak was born.
Yes.
So the 400 that we decide to count, wherever we decide to count it, why 400 is the question. Why 400? Because you walked for 4 steps. How do we plug in the 400? That's a different shayla. So in Parshas Lech Lecha we learned about the war. We mentioned before a war. Trivia question in the entire Torah. Was there ever a person in the Torah that went to fight his own father? In the Torah. Chamisha Chumashim. A person who went out to war against his own father.
Yeah, wasn't it?
A war. David is in the Torah? Bereshis, Shmois, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Dvarim, we stop. Such a thing? A kid goes to fight his own father.
Abraham Terah?
No.
I didn't fight him. He broke his idols. Conceptually he did, but not, I'm going with a sword. David HaMelech is not in Torah. We're limiting it to the 5 Chumashim. A little hint. Parshas Lech Lecha. Who did Avraham Avinu go to war with? Who did Avraham Avinu go to war with? Who were his soldiers? Soldier? Eliezer. Who's Eliezer? Eliezer Zog. Who's Zog's father? Eliezer was the son of Nimrod. Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says Eliezer is the son of Nimrod. Great. One of the kings that Avraham Avinu went to fight is Amraphel. Amraphel is Nimrod, which comes out that Eliezer, the son of Nimrod, is going to fight against his father Nimrod. Normally you call a son his name during the bris. Was there ever a time that a woman was called a name at the bris? Normally women, Mishaberach, in Shul, Monday, Thursday, or Shabbos. Is there ever a time a woman is called, you give her a name, Mishaberach, Vikar Shema B'Yisrael, at the bris? You ever hear such a thing? Another the twins, a boy and a girl. If the boy is a bris, what's the connection to the girl then? The answer is Parshas HaShavua. Sarah Imenu, name change from Sarai to Sarah. Toysis HaShalom brings that in the bris of Avram, when his name was changed from Avram to Avraham, Sarah's name was changed, V'ikar Shema B'Yisrael, not Sarai anymore, rather Sarah. Another riddle for a bris, the Rema writes in Yoredei Reish Samechei that we try to find the best sandak possible. And he brings that the koyach of sandak is even greater than the moyel, which means if you have to give an aliyah to the moyel or to the sandak, you give it to the sandak. Because the sandak is like a kohen gadol, maktik toyos. The Pele Yoetz writes in Mila, make sure that you choose for yourself the best sandak, because that's going to help the neshama of the kid to pull on him, kedusha and tahara. Go look for an adam gadol to be the sandak.
More than the father?
More than the father what?
That means we got to the aliyah. Because his father's there.
No. The Rema is talking about when you have to choose between a moyel and the sandak. A moyel is a technical guy. He just comes and he's a surgeon. Sandak, the father, it's his mitzvah. Now my riddle is, so we have to look obviously for the greatest moyel, the greatest sandak possible, right? Who was zoiche to have a malach, an angel, serve as his sandak? Avraham Avinu? Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. An angel who served as a sandak for someone. Can it be? First of all, can it be? Yes, if I'm asking, 2 points for that already. Just details, how can it be? There's a sefer called Sha'arei Dura. Sha'arei Dura is one of the Kadmonim, maybe 750 years ago, in Germany. In Hilchos Nida, Simen Chaf Gimel, listen to this. Maise with Elisha Kohen Gadol and his wife. They kept having babies and they died. Elisha was very upset. And he went to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why is it that all the other tzaddikim have kids and I don't? Came out a baskol from Shemaim and said to him, because they are conducting themselves in extra matters of sanctity and purity at the time that they are with their wives. He went back home and he said this to his wife, and they both accepted themselves to conduct themselves in that manner. So once she went to the mikveh, and when she got out, she saw a mitzorah. Oh, that's a bad sign. She went back to the mikveh. She dipped again. She goes out, and now she saw a pig. Uh-oh. Shouldn't see a chaya tmeya. You come out of the mikveh. She goes back again. She comes out, and now she sees a camel. I got to go back again. She went back again. She comes out the 4th time. She sees a goy. No good. 5th time, she sees an arel, a Jew, but he's not circumcised. Not a good siman. She goes back to the mikveh. Comes out. She sees a dog. No good. She goes back to the mikveh. She comes out again. She sees a donkey. No good. She goes back to the mikveh. She comes out. She sees a horse. No good. She goes back. She comes out. She sees an Am Haaretz. No good. She goes back to the mikveh. She comes out. She sees an Ishmael. And every single time she goes back, a lot of steps. She's tired. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mercy came out, and he said to Mem Tetet, that's called Sar HaPnim, interior minister, and he said to him, this tzaddikish is betzar. Go and you stand at the entrance to the mikveh, so she'll see you, the first thing that she sees, in order for her to get pregnant tonight and to have a baby who will be a tzaddik and a kadosh. Immediately, Matat, that's his name, the one to say the entire name, Mem Tetet and Reish and Vav and Nun, we don't say that name. He went down and he stood at the entrance to the mikveh, and she came out And, again, I have to go back. I'm saying something, I don't know what this is. No. I'm matat. I was sent from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is okay. You can go back home. She went back home. She was with her husband. She had a baby. That baby is Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha Kohen Gadol, and his face resembled that of Matat. That's what the Medrash here says. And Matat came and became his sandak. So the answer to our question, yes, an angel was a sandak to someone who? To Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha Kohen Gadol. The name Yerushalayim, does it appear in Torah? No. In our Parsha, what appears? Who's the king of Shalem? Melchizedek Melech Shalem. How do you know it's Yerushalayim? Who says it's not a city called Shalem? Because Mistama, you looked at the Targum, and the Targum says Melchizedek Malka de Yerushalayim. Great. So how did Shalem turn into Yerushalayim? When did that happen? Nobody calls it Shalem today, right? It's Yerushalayim, you agree? When was that transformation? From Shalem, it evolved to be a Yerushalayim. Medrash Rabbah, Parasha Nun Vav Ois Yud in Bereshit Rabbah says the following. Avraham Avinu called the place Yireh. Shem HaMakom Hashem Yireh. That's what Avraham Avinu says in the Parsha. Melchizedek is calling it Shalem. Melchizedek Melech Shalem. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, look, if I'm going to call the city Yireh, so like Avraham Avinu did, but Shem, who's a tzaddik, is going to be upset. I'm not using his name. If I'm going to call it Shalem, like Shem, who's a tzaddik, called it, Avraham Avinu, who's a tzaddik, is going to be upset with me. You know what? Let's combine the two. Yireh and Shalem, combine them now. It's Yerushalayim. That's why it's named Yerushalayim. Based on that, we maybe can understand a pasuk. Tehilim Kuf Chav Beis pasuk Yireh. Yerushalayim habniya ke'ir shechubra la yachdav. That the two parts of the name were combined together. Yireh and Shalem turns into Yerushalayim. What's that?
It's not a nevuah for particular wall.
Don't know. Unless you find me a Medrash that says it is.
Why not Yerushalayim?
It is Yerushalayim. Throughout the Nach, it's never Yerushalayim. Always missing a Yud. I don't think, maybe once in Divrei Hayam in the Yerushalayim with a Yud, but I'm not sure. But throughout the Nach, it's always without a Yud. Two halachos that are learned from Parashas Lech Lecha, even though it's kind of before Matan Torah, yet two halachos that are learned from the Parsha. Can it be? Lemaise. Halachos and Shulchan Aruch or Chaim. Can it be from Parashas Lech Lecha, which is much before Matan Torah? You sure it's learned from here, not Parashas Tazria? Himol Himol, but that's not in Orach Chaim, that's in Yoreh De'ah. Only one who is circumcised can perform the Bris Milah. That's kind of in Yoreh De'ah, not in Orach Chaim. Bris Milah is not in Orach Chaim. First answer. The pasuk says, Hu Yam HaMelach. Rashi? Anyone? Should I make a Vechat Targum with Rashi? What does it mean, Hu Yam HaMelach? What is it there for Maaseh Bereshis? What does Rashi explain? What are you saying no? Rashi says, Le'achar Zman, a while later, not at the beginning of creation, Nimshach Hayam Letoicho V'nas Hayam HaMelach. It was created later. Based on that, you have a problem saying, Baruch Hashem, Oise Maaseh Bereshis, because Oise Maaseh Bereshis are things that are from 6 days of creation. Mishnah Bura Simin Reish Chavches Eif Kotten Vav explains this concept. And halacha lemaaseh, the poskim, because of this, regarding Yam HaMelech, have a big shaila. Can you say or not? Many poskim say you cannot say Oise Maaseh Bereshis when you see Yam HaMelech because of this Rashi.
This is as a result of Chatzador or Lokashur?
No. When it says Yam HaMelech, Rashi's language is Le'achar Zman Nimshach Hayam Letoicho V'nasa Yam HaMelech. There's machlokes of poskim in Simin Memvav regarding Birkos HaShachar for a convert. Mr. Convert comes and he says, I want to say Baruch Ata Hashem Shelo Asani Goy, says the Bach. What do you mean Shelo Asani Goy? HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't make you a Goy? He did. You chose to switch and to become a Yid, but he did make you a Goy. How can you say it? And therefore Bach says you can't say it. Darkei Moshe, the Rema says, yes you can. Why can you say it? Because in our parasha it says that Avraham and Sarah took with them es hanefesh asher asur becharan. They have fashioned souls. What, do they have a lab and they made souls? They converted. Rashi says, Avraham megayer es ha'anashim. He converted the men. Sarah converted the women. And it's considered as if they made them. So when you convert, it's considered asiyah. You went and you converted. You can say shelo asani goy because you did it, not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lemaiseh. Halacha that comes out because of that. Darkei Moshe says you can say, a convert will be able to say sheloi asani goy. Somebody who was not circumcised.
All of the bracha, even doesn't apply. Someone's blind, not blind, he still does Pokeach Ivrim. It's a general bracha.
Pokeach Ivrim, first of all, a person who sees every single day anew, Kodesh Baruch Hu allowed him now to open his eyes. A person who's blind and he himself doesn't benefit from it, does he say a bracha in Havdalah? Yes, because he benefits from the fact that others can see and they can lead him. So that's why he doesn't say Pokeach Iver, Pokeach Ivrim. In other words, you allow others to see, and I benefit from that as well. Thank you very much, Ibn Shloim. But when you're talking about you shelo asani, not others, shelo asani, but you did. He did make you a goy. Darkei Moshe says, no, you made yourself into a yid because you chose to convert, and you learned it from Avraham Avinu. Somebody who was not circumcised, and he reached the age of 13, he must circumcise himself. It's no longer a chiyuv on his father, on the Beis Din, it's his own chiyuv. Where is this alluded to in the Torah? Says the Chizkuni. In Parsha of Milah, 13 times is the bris mentioned to tell you it corresponds to a kid who is 13 years old, and if he's still not circumcised, he, at the age of 13, has to circumcise himself, and if not, he's chayav kares. Last thing, let's talk about Minyan Yoima. We started saying, V'esen talu mato livracha today. Eretz Yisrael, we start last night, Zayin Cheshvan. Chutz La'aretz, 60 days after Tkufas Tishrei. The reason is because then starts the need for rain in Bavel, and based on that, all the other countries conduct themselves as well. What if one forgets to say, one forgets to say, V'sen talu mata, I know one person who sits here that this morning forgot to say V'sen talu mata, we're not going to mention names. Forgot to say V'sen talu mata livracha, and he finished Baruch Aleinu. What does he do? He waits. He says it in Shema Koleinu. As long as he still didn't finish Shema Koleinu, he's going to insert it there. If he finished Shema Koleinu, he says it right there, before Ritzeh. But if he already started Ritzeh, he has to go back to Baruch Aleinu. And if he finished the entire Shmona Esrei, he has to repeat. Great. A guy from Chutz La'aretz comes to visit. Between Zayin Cheshvan, we started already saying, tomorrow he lands, Motzei Shabbos he lands, Sunday, Monday. We already started saying it. He still didn't start. And he still wasn't zoichet to decide to stay in Eretz Yisrael. He still has a halachic status of a ben Chutz La'aretz. What does he do? So he does not say talu matar like us. He is a ben Chutz La'aretz. They still didn't say it. Rather, he says it in Shema Koleinu. He adds V'sen talu matar livracha before Kiyat HaShomea. That's what the Rav Shach said, in order to satisfy the two opinions that the Mishnah Bura brings in Kuf Yud Zayin Seif Kotan Hey. Whether he bichlaz has to say V'sen talu matar, or maybe he has to say V'ten bracha. To satisfy the two opinions, you don't say it in Shema Koleinu, in Birkas Hashanim, you say it in Shema Koleinu. If he remembers after he already started Ritzeh, he finished the Shmona Esrei and he does not repeat. Why? Because it's fixed feka, double suffix. Maybe Bichal not chayav to say it. And even if he is chayav to say it, maybe the halacha is like the Rishonim, that it is a valid Shmona Esrei. It's counted as a Shmona Esrei. You just have an obligation to mention it. So you can't repeat because there is no nedava lachatzayin. There is no half tfilas nedava. If you already davened, you can do a nedava lachatzayin. And that is what Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach instructed the Keilos Yaakov and Shevet Alevi. The reverse. A ben Eretz Yisrael who's traveling next week, in 2 weeks from now, in 3 weeks from now, we already started saying, and he says it with us. V'sen talu matar. Next week he has to travel to Chutz La'aretz. It's before 60 days. They didn't start saying it. What should he do? Since he already started saying, says the Sha'ar Tshuva in the name of the Birkei Yosef, he continues in Baruch Aleinu to say it. But, says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, if he wants to, instead of doing that, he can plug it in Shema Koleinu, and again, to satisfy the two opinions brought in the Mishnah Bura, maybe he's Bichlal not Chayav. And if he forgot, he doesn't have to repeat. But, if he travels to Chutz La'aretz, and for some reason, some terrible reason, he decides to stay, I hope he doesn't, but if he decides to stay, then he has to stop. He stops and he waits till Chutz La'aretz people start 60th day of the Tkufa, and he starts joining them. A regular guy.
Sfardim have like a whole different tefillah.
Right?
So if you went to Chutzlard, you couldn't put that whole different tefillah inside Shema Koleinu.
We need to say the words. You need to mention this idea. Besen tal umat. You need to mention the rain. You'll plug it according to Shlomo Zion Orbach in Shema Koleinu. A person who forgot to say in Shachris Besen tal umat remembers only at 2 p.m. What does he do? He davens mincha twice. The first mincha is for mincha. The second one is for tashlumin, is for shachris. Great. But what happens today? If a person forgot in mincha today on a Friday to say v'sen talumata, and he remembers after it's Leil Shabbos, mincha is over. He can't have mincha. What should he do? Should he daven 2 minchas? What is it going to help him? Will he be able to say v'sen talumata in the second Ma'ariv that he's going to do for Tashlumin? There is no V'ten Talumata in Ma'ariv. What should he do? Says the Yeshua Yaakov in Siman Kuf Yud Zayin. This depended on Machlokes HaRishonim. Bachos Chavav. V'sen Talumata, these words. Is it considered, if you didn't say it, that Bichal you didn't daven today? And therefore you must repeat Shmoneh Esrei again. You didn't daven. And when you didn't daven, you have to say another Shmoneh Esrei, even though the second Shmoneh Esrei is not the same. That for the tefillah you missed, but you didn't daven. You owe a tefillah to the system. Or it's just, you're yoytze. It's just you have to mention v'ten talumata, and you didn't, so you owe that to the system. So according to the Rishonim that holds that you didn't daven, of course you'll have to repeat. Even though it's a tefillah of Shabbos, you're going to say Ma'ariv again of Shabbos. But according to the Rishonim that you're yoytze, you should not repeat twice, because anyways you don't mention it, so what is it going to help? You're stam saying the tefillah again. So according to him, since there's a machlokes and there's a suffix who the halacha goes by, since on Shabbos you cannot do tefillas nedava, if I'm right and I have to, so I'm doing it for my obligation. If I'm not, tefillas nedava, you can't do that on Shabbos, mimere, you don't daven. But Reb Chaim Brit comes and he says, wait a second. This machlokes HaRishonim that you're mentioning is not about v'sen talumata. It's about Yalav Yavo, whether a person who says Yalav Yavo is yoytze, his tefillah, but he owes a Yalav Yavo to the system. Or, no, you're not yoytze at all, but v'sen talumata, that's part of tefillah. And if you don't say it, you're meshane mimatbeya shetavu chachamim. You're changing from the words the chachamim instituted you to say. And therefore you must repeat, it's as if you didn't daven. Based on that, one who forgets today, mincha, v'sen talumata, tonight we'll have to say 2 ma'arivs. But lemaise, we don't. Why? Because the Magen Avraham says, it's more mistaber to go like the Yeshua Yaakov, that is dependent on the machlokes HaRishonim, not like what Reb Chaim Brit understood, and therefore we have a suffix, and tefillas nedava you cannot say on Friday night, and therefore one who forgets, no one will forget, halacha is not going to be l'maiseh, will not repeat Shmoneh Esrei twice tonight. אחינו כל בית ישראל נשואים בצר ובשיב יעמדים בין בים ובין ביבש עמקם ירחם עליהם ויוצאים מצר ולבכה מאפל לא ירא ומשיבו לגאולה אשתו בעגולו בזמן קוריב ונאמר אמן